anterior. Okay, so ACC is involved in self-control. I love this study. This is a rock, paper, scissors, though it was in England, so it was stone, paper, scissors. And playing a game against a person or a computer. But it's through a computer screen, so if you know psychology studies, there was never a person there. They were told this time this one's a person you're playing against, Roger, for instance, and then eventually, okay, now you're playing a computer. And when you're playing Roger, you actually activate, this is the right area 32 dorsal anterior cingulate, to try to figure out his intentions, the person you're playing against. When you were playing against a computer, you knew it had its own sort of random style that didn't activate. Showing it's only when you're playing a person, trying to figure out the intention, the intentional stance, as they were talking about in the study, shows that that's involved in area 32, 32R in this study in particular. ADD, given a conflicting cue in terms of being able to solve a task, did not exhibit a strong response in ACC where healthier subjects did. They show greater insight, corresponds with greater activation of ACC. Posner and colleague believe that it's ACC maturation is a sign of self-control that occurs through our lifespan as we mature. That our ACC, the ACC involvement in our behavior is a sign of more maturity, monitoring the consequences of actions. The increased metabolic activity as we get older, as we mature. Okay, so what we could do, we now have this thing right here, this little brown little, here's my mouse, and I have a little mouse there captured in the image. We can now do frontal midline theta training. And I'm just showing you how, for instance, this is like a movie screen, some video, would change its size based on how well you're training. So now this is actually the amount of frontal midline theta. It's in a relative amount. So that would be if it was 100% of the signal. And the volume, of course, would change, and that's even more important when doing operant conditioning, but I can't really show volume. Volume changes very readily, but volume and the visual change, just to give you a sense. And it's very readily done. We do 10-minute protocols, and it's all a lot of the aspect is very automated. All you do is just kick it in, and the system has what's called an adaptive feedback system. So it will find the threshold where your baseline was and stick it there, and then allow you to get better and better. And if you happen to start regress, it will often kick in and find a new baseline. But usually we'll try to find one baseline for the entire 10 minutes that you train. Okay, that is the new version 75 of this DNT training system. Okay, so we're going to be looking at this FZ signal. So the great thing about the anterior cingulate is it comes through strongly at FZ. The signal's out here, FZ, AFC, and in between what we call BA32, but FC picks it up very well, and also a little bit behind it too. FCZ, if there was a designation, if we were using the 1010 system. And you can see when we do assessment, we can see this is our anterior cingulate, and we also have the dorsal anterior cingulate. And we've already found, we haven't been doing the FMT training, but we've been training people using another protocol, usually bi-mod down at the FC, sometimes down and up, depends on how they show. And this is a precondition. This shows you a healthy actor who, if anything, is showing excessive will, excessive ACC activity. This would be excessive, this would be deficit, would be blue. And other things going on in their front lobe, but this is what we care about the most, because this is the only thing that's sort of reliable about theta activity. And we're looking at theta entropy. Here's a very anxious person. They're showing a deficit in everything. But in a way, this is the thing that sort of leads the charge, because it gives you a spark to which area of the frontal lobe should respond. So a deficit of that means you get a loss of will at some level. And now we have some pre-post. This is actually from an individual who had addiction and PTSD, had a deficit. So you can see it's that severe color. And through training, this is the eyes closed, these two, left and right. This is the eyes open, left and right. And you can see there it's actually excessive now, or not excessive, but high-end normal. And here's pretty much green normal. So it did take 60 sessions, because there are other things going on in this person, to handle but they were much, much better after neurotherapy. And that's just using just one of the old protocols. Now we're going to use that old protocol to deal with the anterior cingulate, along with now FMT training, which I think will really help a great deal. Here's a pre and post of a depression case. Look at all blue down here. And now, nice, all nice. And again, these things are not as reliable. It's only the anterior cingulate, I believe, is reliable. So don't, where these say dark blue, it's telling us something, but it's not as important as the, what we call a theta unity measure of that area. But here, this is theta, the actual entropy incidence. It's reliable, I believe, to the anterior cingulate, it looks like to be. Okay, here is just, so we just take the part, another pre and post, where we just pull out the anterior cingulate. You can see that this is the deficit, this is the eyes closed, here's the eyes open, left and right, and much better. And this is someone who had generalized anxiety. I actually went through about probably 50 or 60 hours. We actually had 3 maps on an individual. And here's the guy before, I'm just showing now, just highlighting how it's got much better, much closer to the norm, or even a little high in the end. And here's some more. This is just a one, like left eyes closed, yeah, all eyes closed. So it's a pre-post eyes closed. This one had various issues. You can see them very much improved there. And this person had generalized anxiety, and you can see getting that yellow there. And this person had OCD and generalized anxiety, and getting green there. So we've been able to do that just with our old protocols. We added FMT. I assume we'll get even quicker response, stronger response. We want to target it. Now, we actually have now added, in addition to the frontal midline theta training, we've actually what I would call the ARAS training. We're going to be working on dealing with this pink noise. It's hard to get rid of this. The pink noise is this signature we see in the spectral frequency, across the spectral frequency range. And it looks more of a, this is not the greatest example, but it looks more of a slope, straight slope here, instead of having an alpha peak. And so one of the ways people have been, they use what's called the spectral edge frequency, and this is 95%. They use it for monitoring anesthesia, how conscious you are. So I thought, well, why don't we try to train it up to increase consciousness? I do believe we can train this ARAS system pretty strongly. In essence, we're going to be rewarding getting the energies to occur more up at the higher end, move them up this point. And we have 2 forms of CEPH training. One, it will only go up to around 18, go up to the first harmonic of alpha. So it's just trying to pull this whole delta, theta, alpha range out, and it's trying to get more alpha activity. And then the other one, it does the whole full range. Well, up to 45 hertz is what we stop our training at. But it's going to be conscious enlightening, I believe, enlivening, maybe is a better word, enlivening. And one of the things about the ARAS is it's a reticular formation, and this is a myelination. This is actually a figure from before I was born. And just shows you, here's when you're born, come out of the womb, and some systems are already fully myelinated. But this one takes at least a decade to get largely myelinated, and the associating cortex will take the rest of the life, at least 50 years to get fully myelinated. So they discovered this in like 1947, I believe. Mutsi and Magoon, they stimulated this area. They stimulated various areas of the brainstem of a cat, single cat. And they found that when you stimulate this area, it wakes the cat up. And when you put an EEG lead on that cat, you can see this is the slow wave, the sleep, and then you stimulate, boom, and it wakes itself up. You know, if you ever have a time like in the middle of the night and all of a sudden, like you have acid reflux or something, some loud sound or noise or some kind of pain in your foot, you get a cramp, and you wake up instantly, that was your ARAS waking you up. That was activating the entire system. And that's why this is trying to show here how it activates the whole system, neocortex. Non-specific arousal is called, because non-specific meaning it can come from visual inputs, auditory, pain, tactile, smell even, I believe. Okay. It looks like there may be a couple strong pathways. In fact, let me show the pathways first. Where's my pathways? I've been looking for this paper again, this figure again. And it looks like these strong pathways from area 5 and 7. And we've had trouble training 5. So that's when we're going to start doing the ARAS. And depending on what the spectral plots look like, we'll do either what we call the sensory range up to 18, or we do it all the way up to 45 as our range. Here again is another system. That's the cortical spinal path. But that's ending in area 5 there. So I think there may be a strong point, and this is about recruitability. Here's another view of one. So that when we have our certain techniques that we use to try to improve these, but 5 and 7 have been the most resistant, or let's say take longer. And so we're going to add the CEPH training for that. And we actually been adding CEPH training to the other default network sites as well. Okay, so what are we talking about when you're talking about CEPH 95? It is a power measure because power likes to decline quickly. You could use magnitude, but it'd be a little, maybe not as sensitive actually with magnitude CEPH. That's the only time magnitude would not be better than power, because magnitude is far superior to power in all other measures. This just shows you what it is when you say 95. It's like you look at all the energies coming out, and where is the 95 percentile point? So here for this individual, it was at 27 hertz, and for this individual, it's at 31. And here's one at 30. This is eyes open, same person, eyes closed at 31. Now the issue is it's this harmonic we worry about. We worry about when we train up the CEPH that we don't most people, we don't want to train up a harmonic. That's why we have the sensory one. We stop. I'm going to use just this range for people who have that harmonic, but people who are looking like this with no harmonic at all probably could easily go use the full range CEPH training. And it's actually, the picture doesn't show up, but right now we have a button below here that will say either ARAS or sensory, meaning it goes up to that range. And I always decided to see, can you train it? And the good news is you can. Here's the CEPH. If you look at that light blue color, that is me training myself, my own CEPH 95 up. I'm actually dividing the number. The number is around 27. I divide by 3 just to put it on a plot. These are the peaks here. But you can see it increasing over time, over the last 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes. This is a 5-minute plot right here. So I got literally, I started training it like right about there. Here's another version. It does have some up and down to it, but this one I've been only training. It's a 10-minute protocol for 2 minutes, and it's getting up. It's heading up there. It's doing it in its own fashion, but it is getting up there. Okay, and when some people just ask me about operant conditioning, what we're doing is we're training, rewarding the system for whenever it does a good behavior. And because of one of the fundamental tenets or findings in operant conditioning is if you reward reinforced behavior, repeats. If you reinforce a behavior, it repeats. And this is an example of training a pigeon and rewarding it whenever it actually pecks at this key. Well, when a pigeon walks into this room, the first thing it does, it doesn't peck at a key initially. In fact, it has a bunch of repertoires, and that's what this is showing. It pecks at the floor, it flaps its wings, it preens, it moves around the magazine wall, puts its head inside the magazine, and that's all these repertoires. But as every time it pecks, it gets food drops into the magazine, this little well right here. It eventually, that behavior, which has very little incidence at first, is not part of its natural repertoire, it will increase to become the dominant behavior. This is 4 different pigeons we're looking at. Here's an example of when a cat is thrown into a box where it can get out if it pulls a string. Well, the cat's first response when put into a cage is to maybe bite at the bars, jump up and down, meow. These are the darkness, the thickness is how often it does that. But it needs to go find this string loop on the edge and pull it. Well, when the first time you put it in it, it's not going to go do that. It doesn't have the intelligence. It does its natural repertoire. But because you put it in the box and occasionally accidentally gets its paw caught in the string, then it actually opens up and gets out. Eventually, you put it back in the box. It eventually will head towards that behavior, so that it constantly can get out once you put it into that situation. Well, again, so reinforcing that behavior makes it repeat more often, and that's what we do with the brain through the video quality.